This is A Shock in the Dark.
Hello, Mr. Narrator. Now, I already know how this is going to sound, but I'm begging everyone listening to hear me out. I was a skeptic too. I'm still skeptical, but some of the things that have happened to me recently can't be explained with logic. I need you to help me make sense of it. If you tell my story, please give me an explanation. Or at least tell me that I'm not losing my mind. For context, my name is Sam. I work as a carpenter. I've been married to my wife, Amelia, for almost 12 years. We have a beautiful 8-year-old daughter, Luna, who we adopted as an infant. They are my world. A few months ago, we bought our dream house. Well, my dream house. It's a stunning Victorian-era 6-bedroom, a few hours outside of Philadelphia. The exact type of place I've always dreamt of owning and restoring. Though my wife would have just as well preferred a smaller and newer place, she knew how important this was to me. So we signed the papers and moved right in. I began the work of repairing the beautiful old place, and we started to settle in. But things immediately felt off. I attributed it to growing pains. We moved from the city to a sleepy neighborhood. It was a big change, so I wasn't too concerned about the nightmares. We all experienced them, even Luna, as early as the first night. They were rough. I mean, these were types of vivid dreams that lingered with you throughout the day. The strangest part, though, was it was always the same dream. There were variations of the dream, but when Luna crawled into bed with us one night crying about the tall lady with the long fingers, my stomach dropped. I could tell by the look on my wife's face that hers had too. We all dreamt of this lady, a tall, pale woman with a too-wide grin, gray stringy hair, and long, spindly fingers that reached out towards you from the dark. It was unnerving, of course, but I didn't let it shake me. Dreams can't hurt you, after all. I began to work on the house. It was no small task. I planned to redo the attic as a bedroom for Luna. She would often play up there as I worked and linger after I was finished. She loves to draw. She'd sprawl out on the floor with her markers and crayons and sketch away. Many of the drawings she did were of us, the family and the house. Some were of the frightening woman, which did worry me, but my wife assured me this was simply her way of processing things. Everything was okay, though the nightmares continued. A few nights ago, Luna came running into our room, obviously having awoken from another nightmare. As we tried to calm her down and get her back to bed, she kept telling us that she didn't want to go live with her other mommy. As we've always been open about her adoption, in an age-appropriate way, of course, we assumed she was referring to her birth mother. But when my wife assured her that she would not have to go see her tummy mommy if she didn't want to, Luna shook her head. No, the scary mommy, the one with the long fingers in the attic. Needless to say, we were spooked. My wife began searching for a therapist for Luna, and the house, to me, seemed to take on a darkness that I hadn't felt before. Things got only worse from there. Yesterday, Amelia was at work and Luna was at school and I was home alone. The task of the day was removing the water-stained wallpaper from the attic, and it was proving difficult. After struggling with a small corner for a few hours, I had finally started making a little progress. I grabbed a loose corner and ripped a large piece off the back wall. Beneath it was a drawing. There, in flaking, rust-colored paint, was the crude image of a child. It appeared to be a young boy, crying. Confused, I peeled back more of the paper. Next to him was the image of a girl, also crying. I rushed to pull away the remaining paper, watching the image take form. It took up the entirety of the wall. 5 children, all in a row, each with a look of horror on their face. In the background, the unmistakable looming shape of our house. It was strange, but it was a familiar figure in a crookedly drawn attic window that made my blood freeze in my veins. The too tall woman with the too wide grin reaching out from the painting with her long spider-like fingers. I would be lying if I said the sight didn't make my hair stand on end. Just then, my wife arrived home with Luna. I heard Luna thundering up the stairs, and I quickly shut the door. She appeared at the top of the stairs, gave me a hug, and told me she wanted me to see the drawing she had made at school. I know, I sound crazy, okay? I really do, but there's no explanation. I had just peeled off this wallpaper moments before. Luna would have never been able to see the painting underneath, but sure enough, the picture she handed me was exactly the same, down to the figure of the woman in the attic window. Trying not to betray my fear, I bent down and asked her what this drawing was. She pointed to the crying children with a smile. "Those are my friends," she said innocently. "We play together after you go to sleep, but they're sad because they don't get to leave the house." My wife appeared behind Luna. She was obviously very upset. I sent Luna off and turned to my wife. That's when she showed me the article. I'm including it here for you to see for yourself. Mother of late son found dead in her Pennsylvania home. Bodies of 5 missing children discovered alongside. I didn't need to look at the picture to know what it would be, but I had to anyway. There in the paper, in black and white, was a picture of our home and a portrait of a tall, pale, old woman with stringy gray hair and long, spindly fingers. So can you tell me, what do I do now?
Dear Mr. Narrator, this is my true story. English is not my first language, so I hope this makes sense. At the time this story takes place, it was a very scary time in my life. I was well known to the police in my country. I had visited the police stations multiple times for multiple robbery cases. When I was 23 years old, I had spent the first year of a robbery sentence keeping to myself, but then I was introduced to some men who tried to get me to perform certain physical acts on them. I refused. It's just not the way I am, so I ignored them. A few months later, the warden ordered me to change my cells. My new bunkmate was a giant man who was one of the toughest in the prison. When I ignored him trying to seduce me, he started tying me up and assaulting me in awful ways over and over. I later found out he had connections with the prison wardens. He used to pay them. That's how he was able to have me put in his cell, and why I was not protected in any way. I became a slave. I became very sick. I had difficulty performing even the most basic tasks. I developed a horrible condition having to do with my intestines and needed surgery. But I was only given some medicine and sent back to my cell. After I was released from this miserable life in prison in early 2018, I was given no chance to start a new life. I had absolutely no means of survival. I was forced to live and sleep in the streets, search every day of a way to make some cash so I could get treatment for my stomach and my intestines. I had no friends, and therefore no second chance to survive. A few months later, walking in the streets, I came across a group of con men. They had a certain game, a form of gambling game. These guys were of a different tribe and were ripping off people in the streets with their rigged game. I had seen this game in prison, so I knew these guys were conning people. They would make over $1,000 US per day. That is a lot of money in my country's currency. They spotted me, and I heard one guy say, "That guy is a perfect fit." One of their agents came to me, and he gave me $1,000 in my country's currency in cash. This guy told me to go have lunch. That's a lot of lunch in my country. Even a very heavy lunch goes for $5, and that would include a full chicken. Then, this guy tells me, after that, he had some good job to offer me and check with him later. After their street business, I just had to go with them. I actually saw that as a new life beginning, that I could really change my life. Eventually, these guys introduced me to the boss. Me, being a robber and a prisoner, and after all I had been through, I had nothing to fear. I was courageous enough to give them a clean demand. The boss told me that these guys were also carjackers. I was given a first mission, and it went successful. I started receiving good payments, really good payments. I rented an apartment, visited many nightclubs together with the boss and the other guys. I was thinking that this was it. This was my life from here on out, and life was sweet. This was my destiny. Little did I know, I was opening a new page of disappointments. We became common thugs. We would do our missions from different locations in the city. We used to be chased by cops, but we just kept doing our missions. Mostly we targeted shopping malls. We used a very powerful magnet device that we bought illegally through backdoor channels in the military. This device would break into a car door in less than 30 seconds, no alarms or anything. It was during this pandemic, in early March 2021, that I received a call from one of the guys. "Hey, we've got to go to work today." Now, I had spent the night before clubbing all night because it was our tradition. After every successful mission, we would party and have some relaxing, everyone in their own comfortable zone. So, for this mission, I accompanied my colleague. Both of us dressed up in suits, so no one would suspect we're robbers. We went to a certain mall. We were a team of 4. Each of us knew our particular job. After a while, one of the guys sent us all a mass text. He said he had spotted a great customer, a Chinese man. This guy had some iced out bracelets in his car. He was driving an expensive V8. He parked in a spot and we all waited for him to leave his car so we could begin our job. But it was taking a while for him to get out of the car. This guy had become suspicious because he spotted one of our crew trying to peek into his car, and so the guy decided to leave in his car. We didn't know this guy had become suspicious, so we followed him. We stayed some distance behind him. He drove to a different shopping mall, parked his car, and unknown to us, he secretly had the watchman alerted. We drove into the lot, parked our car 2 spots down from his car, and we planned every detail of how we would conduct everything. I was to do the door break, then the other guy would come take everything that's precious to us, as the third guy was our camera and overwatch or lookout, and finally the getaway driver. Did I mention I was still drunk from partying the night before? Well, my drunk mind directed me to be a hero. I was going to do the whole job by myself. Suddenly, I jumped out of the car, broke the door of that customer's car, and let myself in. The other guys in the crew were all yelling at me, asking me what I was doing. Struggling alone, suddenly I found myself surrounded. The other guys in the crew had escaped. They just left me there. Suddenly, I was very sober, with the Chinese man screaming at me and the mall watchman surrounding me in a crowded parking lot. Soon, my situation had attracted a crowd. Some bikers were driving by and stopped in to see what was happening. These are tough bikers, and everybody knows you do not mess with them. They ordered the watchman to hand me over to them, and they did. The bikers told the crowd, "Aren't you tired of having your cars broken into, your property stolen? These guys have become monotonous, and we are going to teach this one a lesson." The bikers took me to a gas station. They beat me up so bad I could barely move. My heart sank as they then bought several gallons of petrol or gasoline. They poured the petrol all over my body. Luckily, just then, the manager of the gas station came and told them, "If you burn this guy here, you will all die." I had just seen how I would die, but now I was seeing a new chance of survival. Then I overheard one of the bikers say that he would buy 2 ropes, tie each rope onto my legs and the other ends to bikes, and then they would tow me on the highway. Hearing that, I grabbed the metallic poles that stick out of the concrete at the gas station. I held them tight and I started praying loudly. I just asked God to give me another chance to live. Well, it just so happened that some cops were passing by, and they heard these motorcycle guys. They also happened to be 2 of the same cops who had been dealing with my past burglary cases, so they knew me. One of them said, "Hey, boy, it's you again? Ugh." They fired a bullet into the sky to scare the motorcycle guys away. At this point, I couldn't even see properly. My eyes were badly swollen. Gasoline was in my eyes. I had dents and bruises all over my body. The cops took me, and I thanked God. I prayed they would take me to the police post. The police then put me in the car, but they put me in the boot, or trunk of the car. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel the motion. The drive lasted for over an hour. I felt us drive on highways, over bridges and railroad tracks, and lastly, I felt we were on a rough road. I was scared. I didn't know where the cops were taking me. The car eventually stopped. I could hear them talk, and I could smell a lit cigarette smell. I'm still covered in gasoline, and one of them had started smoking. They opened the lid, and I was pulled out. I was in a thick forest. It was just trees around us. The cigarette cop pushed me into a tree, and he told me, "Young boy, you see how you're gonna die? You're gonna die poor. Say your last prayer." He pulled out a pistol, checked the magazine to make sure he had bullets. He cocked the gun and pointed it at my face. He told me, "Now we'll never have to see you again." Again, I started praying. Again, I asked God why this has have to happen.
5,
On his countdown,
4,
with my eyes closed, waiting to die,
2,
I heard the other cop say,
1.
"Hey, wait, let me talk to this guy." He took me aside and told me, "Listen, kid, you could die, but I want to give you a last chance to live. Now go and stop with the robbery." I was shaking. I was sweating blood. I asked him to tell me his name. He said, "I am Corporal Eric." Then he handed me $5 and told me go away. He told me if he ever hears or sees me again, he will shoot me himself. I didn't know where I was or how to get anywhere, but I was thankful as I started trying to find my way out. Still to this day, every single day, I pray that God keep blessings to that corporal. That corporal saved my life. This is a true story I want to share. I promised to change my life, and now I am a good person. I have been through a lot that I haven't even mentioned here. I now, though, have this story to tell, and I hope this story will touch a few people and maybe be helpful to someone's life. I am a retired park ranger. When I hear stories from people claiming to be park rangers, I get the feeling about 80% of them have never been in a forest, much less spent a career in the forest. That's why I'm putting my trust in you and including my name, identification, photos, and other information so you can independently verify who I am. Indeed, I am a retired federal special agent who worked in the field for most of my career, working my way up into a supervisory position and eventually retiring GS-13. Please keep my information private. Editor's note, real quick here. I don't know what a GS-13 is, but this person did provide all this information, including a photo, a current photo, past photos where they appear to be, at an award ceremony, and pictures of them on the job in various capacities, including a screenshot of them conducting a press conference on television. And then I also Googled this person, so yeah, this person is who they say they are. Anyway, the email continues. You can call me Anonymous or just Franco. With that out of the way, let me first say this. I have never seen a staircase in the forest. I've never seen a skinwalker or UFOs or even evidence that Bigfoot or any other so-called cryptid exists. I've seen plenty of things that are strange, things that leave you scratching your head, but there is exactly one case that still bothers me nearly 30 years after the fact. About 5 years into my career, I worked on my first gut-wrenching case. A 2-year-old girl went missing while camping with her family. The mother and father were so distraught. When I went home that night, I just broke down and bawled like a little baby. 17 months later, nearly a year and a half after that incident, I'm sent to another call in the very same spot where another family was camping, where the original family with the missing girl had camped. As I made my way to that area of the park, I literally said out loud, "Here we go again." So I get to the site, and this family was not missing a little girl. They had gained one. They had just turned in for the evening when, according to the family, the crickets had stopped chirping, and about 2 seconds later, they heard a child with a worried voice calling out for mommy. They unzipped their tent, and there is that little 2-year-old girl who was lost a year and a half ago. The 2-year-old had not aged. I had a picture of the girl that was taken by the mother on the day she went missing, and this little girl had the exact same hair, the exact same length. It had not grown at all. In fact, it appeared to be recently washed. She had no dirty hands or knees, no dirty fingernails, which were clean and short. Her clothes, the exact same clothes she was wearing when she went missing, were clean. She had no weight loss or weight gain. I was there the next morning when the parents arrived. They were extremely confused at how their daughter was exactly like she was when they last saw her. They indicated that she had the same vocabulary as when she went missing. And apparently, the girl didn't even know she was gone. She didn't recognize her own brother, who had grown over the past year and a half, and she was very slow in recognizing her father, who had grown a beard during that time. There's just no good explanation. I've thought of every possibility. Child abduction, alien abduction, time warp, time glitch, cryogenics. It still completely confounds me and blows my mind every time I think of it. And while I'm getting all this thing off my chest, I might as well admit, I've been stalking this girl. Not in a creepy way, but I do follow her on Instagram, just to see if there's anything else odd that happens. But apparently, she's living a low-key but happy life. I'm not even sure she is aware of what happened to her. I don't know if I should tell her, but I lean towards no. I will say this: she does look young for her age. It's not a long enough story to make into a book, or I might have written one, but I've always known that before I shed this mortal coil, I wanted to get this story out there and off my chest. So I have chosen you, Mr. Narrator, as my proxy. Thank you for being an outlet for people who have worried about their sanity, or worried about being seen as a flake. And thanks for keeping my identity private. Already I feel as though the weight of the world is off my shoulders. God bless. Franco.